The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And this is episode 153.
153.
What's our topic today?
This is, are you spiritual bypassing? This is an interesting topic. I
Yes.
knew nothing about it when I started looking this stuff up.
Yeah.
Most of our listeners are like, what is this? You know, in the discussion group. So
Yeah.
it's going to be new for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, before we hop into it, anything from last week you'd like to talk about?
Yes, last week we did sudden loss, and I have a couple of messages from that episode. The first one is from Jennifer. She says, I am so glad to hear about sleep paralysis. We talked about it at the very beginning. She said, I've experienced it a handful of times in my life. Once when it happened, I wasn't sure if I had been drugged. It was so strange. I was in my early 20s. It happened again, It happened once again that I can remember in 2009, and I seriously thought of the possibility of evil spirits having something to do with it. I've never heard of sleep paralysis until your show, and it makes sense. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Yeah, I have
Thank you,
had
whoever
that.
that
Yes,
was.
thanks, Jennifer. I've had that. I can remember even back to teenage years. And I remember once my mom coming into my room and trying to wake me up, and she couldn't wake me up. Like, I could hear her, but I couldn't open my eyes, and I was so terrified. But I couldn't open my eyes for anything. It is a very scary experience, the sleep paralysis. But it really is nothing to be scared of. It can't hurt you. It's just...
One time I had a dream. I was like third or fourth grade, stayed home from school, wasn't feeling good, fell asleep. My dad stayed home from work, and I fell asleep, was having a dream that I was doing the exact same thing, except there was arguing and fighting going on in the living room. It was a little condo, so it was really small. And I couldn't wake myself up.
Yeah, exactly.
But then when I finally was like, I guess maybe saying something out loud, and my dad came in and was like, what's going on? I'm all, there's like fighting and screaming out there. And he's like, no, there's nobody here.
Yeah.
But in the dream, I couldn't even wake myself up.
Exactly.
So strange.
That's the sleep paralysis. It's
Yeah.
really scary. Yep. Don't like it at all.
No.
So thank you for that, Jennifer.
Yes, thanks, Jennifer.
And then I also did a reading on last week's show for Sunshine. And she said, thank you, Samantha, so much for the reading for Kira. I was nervous to listen in fear I would cry at work, and you bet your butt I sure did. Sorry about that. You seriously got her personality down so perfectly, I had to go back and listen twice. And Danny, I'm so sorry for the loss of your friend, and I like the part where you were saying how you could talk hours about deep things. That's how Kira and I were. We often just sat in our feelings together and said it all, knowing each other would get it. I often say I miss having a sad friend. Everyone always says to be positive, be happy. Kira was the only one I had that I could feel heavy emotions with and not be told what to do about it, but just feel it. Again, thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear she is happy over there. I also wonder if she will stay there for a while to rest, since this life really was a hard one. Yeah. Thank you for that,
Yeah, thanks,
Sunshine.
Sunshine. And, I truly believe that if it's something you deep down really want, like another connection with someone like that, if you ask the universe to bring you somebody like that again,
Yeah.
a relationship, something you can get something out of on that level, they'll give it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Sunshine also submitted a question this week that we're going to answer. The question is, if we all reincarnate, how is it possible that every year there's more and more people on Earth? Are they souls from other planets? But why also would they want to reincarnate now? I mean, I guess it's better than World War II, but I'm a starseed that doesn't want to procreate because the world is garbage. I don't want them to struggle. That was one of the many reasons why I didn't have kids of my own, was because I felt like, what am I bringing them into? Like, this is just a horrible place. But you know what? it's the school. And if they're supposed to come into it, they will, because this is the school.
Yeah.
So we can't really stop that, The soul will come back one way or another.
Yeah, and in different times, because there's different lessons in different times.
Yeah.
I think. But what I've read with Dolores is that in this particular time, this century, maybe, I don't know, I'm just going to go with that.
Yeah.
But this particular time, I'm assuming that there are so many souls. I don't know if it's infinite.
Yeah.
Or if it's just billions and trillions and,
Yeah.
There's so many that we can spread ourselves throughout a universe, right?
Yeah.
And inhabit different bodies and different planets. But particularly Earth, people wanted to be here. Souls wanted to be here.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, they really wanted to witness everything that was going to happen.
We all did.
That's changing. And by that I mean an awakening.
Yes.
And going back to like your World War II statement, the truth is ancient times, we know that there was a lot of contact between other life forms and things like that with Atlantis and ancient Egypt and things like that. Were they still visible to some throughout time? Of course. But as soon as World War II came along and they saw that bomb being tested
Oh, yeah.
for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I believe.
Yeah.
That's when they were like, okay,
Yeah.
it's time to not leave the children unsupervised so much and start showing ourselves gradually. But this been against, confidential, top secret things that maybe the government doesn't want to scare to share to scare people.
Right.
Stuff like that. But that's another reason that people want to be here now, is because there will eventually be a contact.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And these souls know that this is a magical time. This is a shifting period for the earth. It's going to change.
Right.
And especially when that comes out and there is an initial contact, that's going to change so much about our world. The awakening will change as more become awoke.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but yes, it's hard to believe that this is, and it's kind of like what we say, it's a simulation.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be for experience.
Yes.
And excitement and enlightenment. And we chose to be here at this time.
Yes.
Whether you know it or don't know it, whether you remember or don't. You chose to be here to witness all this. And maybe to be a volunteer.
Yes.
To help.
I was going to say that. Yes.
Bring people towards the light.
Yeah.
Show them the opposite direction of the dark energy and move them towards the light.
Yes. I ask myself that a lot. Even out loud sometimes I say to you, what are we doing here? Why are we here? I want to go home, It's like, why Earth of all the places, okay? But here's the thing is that we're doing light work. And that's what this earth needs right now. It needs more people, more star seeds, more indigo children to wake people up, to help them see what's actually going on. And so what's a better time to do that than a hard time? We've seen a lot in our lives. We've seen war. We've seen 9/11. We've had, all kinds of coronavirus. There's so many things, but all of these things are the universe's master plan.
Yeah.
They help to move people along. They help to change situations a lot of times for the better. A lot of people I know actually from coronavirus came out of it better rather than worse. And that's what the universe does. And we're here to help people to awaken to all of this. So as hard as it is to understand why we would want to come back at such a hard time, I try now to think of it as like, well, I should be here at a hard time, because if I was here at an easy time, then I wouldn't be able to do what I could do for people, But again, is there ever an easy time? Like, does anybody ever in their life not experience this?
No,
like, stuff
if everything was
that's going
always great and pretty, we'd be bored of that.
Yeah.
We'd be depressed and sick of that. So the ups and downs are all part of it. It's supposed to be part of each one of our simulations. That's why each one of us has happy moments and sad moments.
Yes.
victorious moments and failure moments. We're supposed to learn from that.
Yep.
Through a lot of Dolores's regression sessions, many times the spirits say, Earth is probably one of the most unique and special planets in our universe. Many other planets and beings, they're almost like so connected that they know. They know what their job is from the day that they're alive.
Right.
They work for the source. They do greater good for the universe.
Right.
Earth is a combination of everything.
Yeah.
Of all these different types of people and beings, okay? Because I don't think they're necessarily all humans.
Right.
I do believe that there are other life forms that walk among us.
Probably.
That can disguise that.
Probably.
But we have such a conglomeration of different types of points of view.
Yeah.
Different types of beliefs. And it is a chaotic world.
Yeah.
But it's also very beautiful.
Yeah.
And exciting. So this is a special place.
It is.
And it's one of the toughest places because there's so many lessons. And the gravity here is so great that we just feel pulled down.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. We think in a very human way because we don't know how else to think because we are human.
Right.
And when we get to the other side and see what's really going on, it makes more sense. But there's a lot of things that we can't really wrap our heads around because we think like humans. You know?
I think that anybody that feels this or maybe believes this should pat yourself on the back because I think you agreed to come here and wipe off a lot of karma.
Yeah.
By coming here,
Yeah.
especially during this time.
Yep.
And if you're doing light work or things that are for the greater good of mankind, then during this time in particular, you are working off a lot of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that answers your question at least a little bit, Sunshine. We need to do an episode, I think, on the life of Dolores Cannon. You know, of all of the things that like she's worked on, but also the New World, because the New Earth, because I think that you know a lot of people have interest in that, and that explains all of this in there too. So so a couple episode ideas.
Totally.
So then one more question. This is from Katie. She says, souls, once you reach out to them, do they have a lasting connection? For example, if you connect with a soul and then later they have an important message to send someone, can they connect with you spontaneously to let you know what the message is and who it's for, if you don't remember who you connected with originally? Is this true for both human and animal souls? That's a great question.
Yeah.
One of the first times that I remember this happening to me is at the very beginning of my spiritual journey, I was doing a lot of readings in free reading groups, just knocking them out because I wanted to see, you know, make sure I really have this. And there was one guy that I read for his wife and daughter. He died very suddenly and they were having a really hard time. And one of the things that came through was something relating to the Flintstones. And he was saying yabba dabba doo, right? So a couple of weeks later, I'm driving. I was still pet sitting at this time. I'm driving to one of my pet sits, and I hear yabba dabba doo, and I feel his energy. And I realized at that moment that yes, once you've connected with somebody, you know what their energy is, and you can feel it if it comes in. Now, I have had times where spirits have tried to come through, but I'm not really there at that time. I'm not connected. I might be doing something random and not thinking that, and then they have to try other ways to get through. But pretty much, yes, I would say that energy, it does, even with animals, it does stay. I don't remember my readings for the most part when I do them, which I appreciate because I do so many. I can't imagine if I retained all that information. Yeah. But once I connect to the animal or to the spirit, it has that similar energy feeling, and I start to remember, okay, right, this is how the person or animal died, and things start coming back to me that way. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So thank you for that question, Katie.
Thanks,
love
Katie.
that question.
That was a good one.
And then one more thing before we get going is the reading that I do every week. So this is from Melissa, and she says, this was my son's cat, Olive. While he and I were on vacation, she took a turn for the worse. My husband rushed her to the emergency vet. They euthanized her without even trying to save her. She had diabetes and was doing great, so I have no idea what happened. Does she still watch over my son? He also has diabetes, and she used to wake him up if his blood sugar dropped.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
I'm so sorry about that. That really sucks. So there was more going on with Olive than just diabetes. There was kidney failure here too, and I don't know if that showed up on any blood work or anything. But what I'm feeling is that this was a combination of the diabetes, the kidney disease, and just that it was time. You know, there's only so much that an animal's body can take, and diabetes is really hard. Yeah. And if their levels are even kind of off, like with animals, it's not like with people where you test their level every time that you give them an insulin injection. Oh. You just give them the insulin. Most of the time it's every 12 hours, and you just give them the same dose, and then they go into the vet, however often, and they have it checked to make sure. But if their dose is off and they require more, you might not even notice it. So I think that might have been a part of the problem here, is that the insulin dosage was off a little bit. It's not your fault. This was time. This was what needed to happen because it was her time and she was uncomfortable, and that doesn't make it better. Yeah. But it was just something that no matter whether you were there or not, it was going to happen. She actually did not want your son to be there when it happened. So I think she took this time to pass when you were away on purpose. This was not a coincidence. This was, I'm ready, and I know they're not here and they're not going to see this. Yeah. Especially with the son. It would have been really hard for him to have to go through that. I mean, this really sucks, and it's really hard to have to explain why something like this would happen. But at the same time, watching your animal suffer and trying to save it is worse, in my opinion. They wouldn't have been able to save her. There was nothing that they could do. So know that they knew that. And a lot of times it's hard for us to realize that the vets can do their jobs. Like we think, oh, they didn't do right. They didn't do right. But you know what? Most of the time, it's their job, and they love animals and they want to help them. And if they say, we can't help this animal, then you have to believe them, because a lot of those places too, they need the money, right? That's what they're there for, is the money. And so if they're telling you we can't do anything, then they're being really honest with you, because they're not trying to go after money just to say, oh, we can, maybe save her, maybe. Right. So just please know that there was nothing that could have been done, and it wasn't anybody's fault. Yeah. Let me see what else she has to say. I do feel like she's going to reincarnate pretty quickly, because I do feel like you're going to find another cat that is going to do the same kind of thing, but isn't going to have the health problems, but is going to be able to help your son to know with the diabetes too. Animals sense this. It's so amazing. Yeah. You don't even have to specially train a cat to sense these types of things. They just do. So, you're going to find another one that's going to be able to do that. And I actually see your son moving out at one point and taking this cat with him. So I think that one's going to be around for a long time. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So that's I hope good. that helps you, Melissa, and your son. I'm very sorry for your loss. Yeah, sorry, Melissa. Yeah. So that's all I have from last week, except to tell you that next week we have a special guest on our show. My sister, that I've never met before, that I didn't even know existed until a couple months ago, will be here tomorrow. That's exciting. And she will be here on the show next week. Very cool. Yeah, that'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I know she's nervous, but once I was nervous too. These dogs farting and one of them just let one rip. Actually, there's only one dog in here, so we know which one it was. Process of elimination, unless it was you and you're just blaming the dog. Okay, right. Anyway, I would admit it. I know you would. You'd be proud of it. So anyways, enough fart talk. But cool. She'll be here next week. Looking forward to it. Yeah. Awesome. Yay. All right, then. Episode 153. Are you spiritual bypassing? When I heard about this, at first I took it personally. I felt like I was personally victimized from this. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing this and I don't even realize that I'm doing it. I think I did it a lot more in the past, but I want, before we start, for everybody to know this is normal and it's not a bad thing. We're going to talk a little bit today about what this means and how to get through it if you are spiritual bypassing. But after doing this research, I truly believe that we all spiritual bypass at one time or another.
Yeah.
Some of us maybe more than others, and we need help to figure out how to not do it.
Right.
So first, what is spiritual bypassing? Well, it is a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. Another definition I saw was it is attempts to rise above and effectively deny unpleasant emotions, experiences, and realities in order to feel good and avoid discomfort and pain. So we can say, everything happens for a reason, right? And it does. I really, truly believe that. But what's spiritual bypassing, for example, it would be like if the person says everything happens for a reason, and they don't deal with the thing that's happening.
Yeah.
They shove it under the rug and just say, well, everything happens for a reason. I'm not going to deal with the emotions that come with this.
Right.
A couple of examples. Okay. A relative regularly crosses boundaries and behaves in ways that's hurtful to other family members. Rather than confronting this behavior, the spiritual bypassing means that we feel the need to repress the anger and maintain and be totally overly tolerant. Be overly tolerant. Another example, you lose a loved one suddenly, but avoid dealing with your feelings of grief because you're spiritually bypassing to avoid feelings of pain. These were two that I got online.
Yeah.
And I see how these could happen. I don't know how it's possible to spiritual bypass grief. It has a way of smacking you upside the head, like how? But maybe.
I think when I first heard this concept, I totally took it a different way.
Me too.
And thought this was a tool that people on a spiritual path were using.
Oh, no, not at all.
To eliminate unnecessary, things in their life.
Yeah, kind of, but yeah, not a tool.
I can see where it could be used in certain things. But at the same time, yeah, I don't feel like my overall opinion about it is good.
No, it's basically avoiding the human issues.
Yes.
Yeah. And really, this is something that I've been dealing with a lot lately is saying, okay, I have to feel the emotions. And that's really what this is about, is allowing ourselves to feel the emotions and not repressing them.
Yes.
And that can be really hard because, I think a part of what we're taught in this spirituality is that we're not supposed to be anything but love and light and peace. And that's not how this works at all. You have to still feel the human emotions.
Yeah.
I think it's just what you do with those emotions.
Yes.
How you handle them, how long you hold on to them for. We're not supposed to hold on to something and not let it, go away. So when we just kind of sit, like we say, sit in the shit, then we're just, not dealing with it. And we need to deal with the emotions, whatever they are, all of them.
Right.
When we lost our friend a couple of weeks ago, I got angry, but I didn't, you just say, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. It's okay. You're supposed to be angry, but it's how you direct that. If you get in your car and you go to somebody else's house and you punch them in the face because you're angry, then that's not the right way to handle your anger.
Right.
But you need to be able to feel, we all need to be able to feel those emotions because that's a part of why we're here. We're not here to just, la 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 la. That's what heaven's about. Heaven's about being happy and not feeling the emotions of anger, jealousy, hatred, whatever. You don't feel those in heaven. Those are here. So we're supposed to feel them.
Yeah. And somehow they get this, there's bad connotation attached to it.
Yeah.
Tears and crying. And I mean, how many of us, their parents said, you're crying, I'll give you something to cry about. Or, oh, you're crying, you're a sissy.
Yeah.
Or, what are you crying about?
Yeah.
Just that overall thing that starts at a very young age that we see teaches us that we're supposed to repress.
Yeah, it does.
And that's not doing anything, but I picture us as like walking pressure cookers.
Yeah.
And you're just stuffing this all down, thinking that you're strong and tough and it's all going to go away. And then you hit 50 or 60 and you have a midlife crisis and a full-on mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to feel anything.
That's right.
And the truth, like you just said, babe, is that everything is wonderful in heaven.
Yeah.
There's no body and ailments and sickness and strife and suffering. So they don't experience that there.
Right.
They only experience by watching what we're going through and try to help us through that. Mm-hmm. But the gift is everything. Yeah. All those emotions. Not just happy
right.
and joyous and victorious, but all those other ones that aren't what we're taught as pretty or good. Mm-hmm. But they are the gift.
Yes.
You can't shed tears in heaven because you don't have eyes or tear ducts.
That's right. Yep.
Whether it's tears of joy or tears of sadness, that is like the most intense and obvious emotion on any human.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So spiritual bypassing is a form of avoidance and escapism. There's unaddressed emotional issues or trauma that will eventually bring issues in the future. If you don't deal with something now, you're going to have to deal with it in the future.
Yeah.
You know, when we first started the spiritual journey, I wanted so bad to be that peace and love. I wanted it so bad, and I was striving for it every day, but I wasn't there. I was still very much stuck in the old thoughts, but I wanted the new thoughts. So anytime that something would arise in my mind that was a negative thought, I would be like, nope. You're not going to do that. You're going to push it out. What I didn't realize what I was doing, and that was stifling myself. I had to learn to do the work, do the shadow work. This is where shadow work comes in. This is recognizing those things in yourself that are holding you back and having, causing unhealthy patterns.
Yeah.
And if you just think that, I'm going to be this spiritual person that's never going to, feel things. That's not how it goes.
No.
I went to Disneyland a few years ago. I think we were like a year or so into the spiritual journey. And I had met this girl and we went to Disneyland together, and she had never seen me show any emotions except for the way that I normally am, right? Never seen a fluctuation in my emotions. And on the way back, I was not feeling well. I was pretty sick that day. And we were in the carpool lane, and we came upon this guy that was doing 45 in the carpool lane, and you can't get out. It's illegal. You have to stay in there. If you don't have carpool lanes where you are, you have to stay there until there's an opening, a specific opening. So I'm behind this guy doing 45 on the freeway, and I feel like I'm going to be sick, and I start getting angry, and she's like, I didn't know you could get angry. Do you know I have people tell me that all the time? I didn't know you could get angry. Oh, I can get angry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can. It doesn't happen often. But if I feel it, you have to let it out. I can't just sit here and be like, oh, namaste. I'm not going to get angry at the guy going 45 in front of me. I'm a human. Right. I've gotten to a point where that kind of stuff doesn't so much bother me anymore. Right. But I wasn't feeling good that day. But I'm not going to push it down if it is. I'm not going to, repress it, because that's not healthy.
No.
But you've got to handle it in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think using, and I don't even know if this would be spiritual bypassing, but kind of like we were talking about, if you're getting a flurry of negative thoughts and energy entering your head, and you're going, nope, I'm going to replace those with positive thoughts. That, to me, is not a bad thing.
No, I don't think so.
Because you're retraining your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But if some of those thoughts have to do with, oh, man, such and such passed away last week, and I'm just so bummed about it, or I lost my job,
right,
or I'm getting a divorce. These are reasons to feel, and to be upset. But like anything, you will move through it, and everything is like a phase, or a chapter, and so you'll move out of that and into something else, and then from there out of that and into something else.
Exactly. But
the whole idea is to feel it and live it and learn it and experience it.
Yes. Something that I read online, it's compulsive avoidance can lead to addiction. Spiritual bypassing is similar to the other forms of addiction. Instead of using something like drugs or alcohol, you use spiritual practices, like putting a Band-Aid on it. Like, okay, I'm starting to feel angry, so I'm going to go meditate, or I'm going to go pray, okay? those things are great to do, but feel the feelings first. You know, feel them.
You can cry while you meditate if you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Kind of like what you
times.
said with our friend that passed away. Those kind of different phases I went through just in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
But I did the same thing, like where you left me and you went, I don't know where you went. You went out for a little bit or something. And I was just by myself and I put music on. But I just had to scream the F word a couple times.
Yeah, that's why I let you be, because I was like, he needs to get angry. I'm just
going
to let him.
this out a couple times, and then I'll be okay. Like I don't mind the crying, but I'm a ball of energy, and there's this immense surge of energy when something like that occurs. That it's like, I don't know if you could explain it as sort of like, or compare it to like Tourette's. It just got to come out real fast.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
And then I'll be okay. I didn't really feel like I need to sit there and, you know, like flame throw something.
Yeah.
And breathe fire on it for 20 minutes. I just needed one little burst, and then I could move forward to the next phase of the emotion. But.
One of the things that I didn't really agree with when I read about this is how they say things like everything happens for a reason, or, you know, good vibes only. They say that those are words of spiritual bypassing. And I don't believe that. I think it depends on how you use it. You know, because here, I'll give you another example. So I just recently found out that I have a dad and a brother and a sister, right? This was hard for me, and I did get very angry at times, but I realized that everything does happen for a reason, not just finding them now, but the fact that I did not grow up with him as my father.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. But I still have to feel the feelings. I still had to get angry at my mom for what she did. All of those things had to come out. But at the end of it all, I do realize that everything does happen for a reason. So I feel like there's a balance there, that you can't saying, you know, good vibes only is wrong.
Right.
As long as you're dealing with the things that you need to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, again, anger is not a bad thing depending on what you're doing with it.
Exactly.
If that's the only emotion that you're feeling, then I would say you're probably bypassing something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I asked our listeners, I have a list of things that can show that you're spiritual bypassing. So I put this in our discussion group. I asked them, do you do or feel any of the following? The first one, and the one that people responded to the most, is pretend things are fine when they really aren't. I think we all have a tendency to do that at one time or another, and that's not always a spiritual bypassing type thing.
Right.
I think that we do that, you know, not just for ourselves, but to put on a happy face to other people so that we don't start problems or confrontation. Right. And I know, you know, we go back to what it said before about, you know, that is a spiritual bypassing.
A lot of people don't want to bring somebody else down with their, you know, problems.
The second one was feeling detached. And yeah, I can see that. Sometimes I do that where I'm just detaching myself and I don't want to feel. I just want to, you know, let it all be and you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling that for a while as long as you don't hold on to it. You know, again, feel the feelings.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to check out for a bit, check out, but you got to check back in at some point.
Yeah, definitely. The next one was you must rise above your emotions. That's been a hard one for me with the spiritual journey is the balance, is figuring out that I don't have to do anything. I have to just do what's right for me, and I don't have to rise above something. There's no, you know, nothing, no bar that's set for me or anything like that. You know, it's all about
I'm still kind of confused by that statement.
Yeah.
Rise above your feelings.
Your emotions, your negative emotions.
I mean, I could see that, if I wanted to, let's say, for instance, you know, run with, when we found out about a friend and I wanted to run with the anger.
Yeah.
And I want to direct it all at the son.
Yeah.
And just be focused on him and anger and anger and anger and anger and anger. Mm. That, I could see where then I need to rise above that and get to a point where I can accept and forgive.
Right.
And move forward.
Yep. The next one was you use defensive mechanisms such as denial and repression. So like you don't want to face certain things about yourself or the situation. You're just in denial about them, you know, because I'm just going to move on. I'm not going to deal with this. I'm just going to pretend this isn't a part of who I am. But a big thing that I could see spiritual bypassing being a problem is if you don't do shadow work. Yeah. If you're just neglecting the shadow work, we did an episode on it. I think I wrote that down here somewhere. Yes, shadow work, episode 83. Shadow work is basically taking those things about yourself, those negative things about yourself, and admitting that they're there, seeing that they're there, and then trying to fix them, trying to deal with whatever it is that caused the situation. Right. So if you are stifling yourself spiritually, you're not going to do the shadow work, and that is such an important part of the spiritual journey. It really is. I think the shadow work is what teaches us to be more peace and love, because we do learn to be more tolerant of other people's issues. Like I've learned through my shadow work that most people, their issues, those are caused by things that were done to them from outside sources, and they don't realize that they're damaged from that, or they're repeating the behavior, and that's where the shadow work comes in, to change those things that other people have done to us that we don't even know they've done.
I did that a lot in my life. I had a lot of anger for the things that happened to me growing up, and I used that as license to act out and be not nice to people.
Yeah.
And that's where I had to change, because 9 times out of 10, that person had no idea what I've been through.
Exactly.
So they don't deserve that.
And you don't know what they've been through either. Yeah. You know, we all have our stories, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The next one is project your own negative feelings on others. A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that. I really try to not project my feelings on others at all, but I know sometimes it just happens because we don't even realize that we're doing it.
That's where the good vibes, only kind of comes in helpful.
Yeah.
Is where you're trying to focus on that when you're being inundated with maybe somebody in your life that's on a regular negative.
Yes, there's a difference between, like, let's say you have a friend that calls you and they're negative and they need to talk about it. There's a difference between that happening, every so often and happening all the time.
Yeah.
You can't expect to go through that all the time. That's when you might say, well, maybe you should be a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
But you know what? If there's a situation that needs to be dealt with, then listen. And, that's totally different. That's totally different. Let's see. The next one was that meditation and prayer should always be positive. And you know what? I wasn't really sure exactly what this is supposed to mean. Like, my meditations are not always positive. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I get upset during them. But I don't know. Maybe other people don't. Maybe they look at it as it has to be all love and light. When I pray, I pray to fix the negative, not just the positive, to, thank you for the positive. Yeah. I don't know.
I think that's really the most, for me, kind of what you said, that's the most important thing. Like, because if you're doing a meditation, you're sitting quiet with yourself and you're getting these things that aren't happy, whether it's memories or past traumas and things, that's okay. Mm-hmm. But whatever you're thinking about manifesting, that's what's important.
Right.
That you're not using that as I hope this person dies, or I hope this happens, or something negative on somebody.
Yeah, no.
It's just a waste of time.
Yeah, no, that's not good. Let's see, 2 more. The next one is avoiding feelings of anger, which we've talked about, and then only focusing on the positive or being overly optimistic. That one has been hard for me because I want to be that light. I want to be positive. I don't want to be a negative person, and I try really hard to do that. But I think, again, it's about balance, and it's about if you're just not feeling it, and you can't stifle that. Like this week, I just haven't really been myself, and I kept beating myself up about it. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you feeling like this? And it's like, well, because I haven't felt the emotions. I haven't dealt with whatever it is that's making me feel this way. Mm. But once I dealt with the emotions, and like I talked with you and I talked with a friend Nisha, and I felt better after that, and I was able to let it go. But if you're just going to pretend, I don't know, I need to feel positive, I have to, even though I'm feeling like I'm not positive, It doesn't work. Yeah. It really doesn't work. And that's not what the universe wants us to do either. No. They want us to have balance, for sure. Okay, so how do we get past spiritual bypassing? Well, we need to feel all the feelings, and you don't have to act on them, but you need to feel them. That's a good way to start getting past the spiritual bypassing. Be honest and bring about awareness to your patterns. Recognize the behavior and catch it. So if you notice that you're doing this, whatever part of the spiritual bypassing, it might take you a little while at first to recognize that you're doing it, but each time, if you call yourself out on it, you'll get sick of calling yourself out. Like, that's what I do. I'm like, oh, I did it again.
Yeah. Yes, I do that frequently.
Yeah. Work on allowing yourself to feel more of what you've denied and own up to the parts that you've tried to hide away. I think that's very important too. We try and hide certain things about ourselves because, I don't know, we think that's what we're supposed to do. Or
the old saying that I always go back to, and that is, you got to go through it to get to it.
Yep.
So if we're doing nothing but learning as energy and spirits and souls, meaning when we die and we go to heaven, we're learning just as much there as we are learning here.
Yeah.
The difference between incarnating is that it's what you would call a fast track, hands-on fast track learning.
Yeah.
If you think you're bypassing it in this life, and then at the end of your life, you're realizing all the things that you avoided.
Right.
You're going to have to come back and do it again.
Right. Definitely.
This isn't about what did you build with your money.
No.
Okay? This is about what did you do with your mind and your heart.
Exactly.
That's why we're here.
Exactly.
That's why we are infinite energy and souls that live forever.
Yep.
God wants to know, the source wants to know what all this feels like. This energy of, these experiences of going in and losing a parent or an animal or having to be homeless or, and all the happy stuff too. We send back these experiences so that knowledge keeps getting greater and greater in the source.
Right.
We are his scouts.
Right.
We go, or it's scouts, not his, sorry. It's scouts to go out and experience these things and bring it back.
Yeah.
We can't go from kindergarten to the 3rd grade.
No.
You cannot. If you tried, you would walk into the class and not understand at all what the teacher was saying, and then you would be kindly asked to leave.
Probably.
Or you'd fail.
Yep.
And that means you'd have to do it over.
Yep.
You can't do this. And that's the same thing in life. As much as you think you're bypassing it for the moment, you're not going to bypass anything.
No, definitely not. I work with people every day that have things that have happened to them in their past, traumatic experiences. And they go, oh, but I've dealt with it. It's fine. I've dealt with it. Well, what do you mean you've dealt with it? Oh, it doesn't bother me anymore. Well, I used to say the same thing. Doesn't bother me anymore. But I realized that I had never really faced the things that had happened. I needed to. And I needed to admit to myself the things about me that were caused by the abuse that I suffered. Yeah. And then I was able to do the shadow work to change them. So if you repress those things and just go, oh, I dealt with it, it's fine. It's not fine. It's not. And that's a major sign of spiritual bypassing. If you don't think you're spiritual bypassing, you probably are.
Right.
We just want to deny it. We want to go, nah, I'm cool. I'm good. But you know what? You're really not. Could you face, if you had an abuser, right? And you had never talked to them since the abuse and you went through all of this shadow work, right? Could you talk to your abuser again? I think that's a good question to ask, because if you say no, then you haven't dealt with it yet. And I'm not talking about being buddies. I'm just talking about addressing the situation. Hey, what you did to me, that wasn't right, but I forgive you. Those types of things.
Right.
If you're like, no, never, you haven't dealt with it yet.
Right. Yeah, if you're not ready to do that, then you haven't.
Yeah, you haven't dealt with it. Carl Jung, there's a quote from him. He says, Carl Jung believed that the shadow is also a seat of creativity. So if we never confront our shadow, not only do we spend an inordinate amount of energy suppressing it, but we remain slaves to subconscious drives and patterns and never access our full potential. Mm-hmm. And most of the time it's because of what other people have done to us, not even what we've done to ourselves. And we just suppress ourselves because of this.
I love that, though, because he sort of insinuates that the shadow is a part of you.
Yeah.
It's when you think about it, anytime you step out into the light, you always have a shadow.
Yeah.
And we look at that shadow as dark and, unknown, kind of, and unimportant. But it's walks with us everywhere. Yeah. So as an analogy is like we all have that. So acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Because there are things in my life that I look back in my experiences and growing up and go, I can feel the pain from them still, you know what I mean? But it's not like that. Yeah. It's not so fresh that, and I spent a lot of time going to counseling and stuff, talking about the things that happen to myself. But so I feel like, I've moved past those and actually worked towards rebuilding relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Trying to mend them.
Absolutely.
Not staying on the other side is divided.
Right.
But trying to mend things. And,
yes.
Some are receptive and some aren't.
Right.
And that's just part of life that we have to deal with. But it doesn't mean that because somebody's not receptive, whether you were at fault or you weren't, you did your best to try to make it right.
Yes.
And if it just isn't meant to be, it's not meant to be.
That's exactly right. But you've done what you needed to do. That's something that I've learned in my spiritual journey that I need to do is to forgive the abusers, to actually, one of them, write him a letter and tell him he's not going to hell and he has been forgiven. Right. And when I was told to do this originally, I was like, oh, no, not going to happen.
Right.
But now I realize, I need to do it. Like I keep thinking I need to do this. I'm not trying to put it off. It's just life's been really busy. But
and it logically makes more sense in your mind than it does. It's like a scale. It starts to weigh and outweigh each other. But I think at first the fear of that outweighed the logic of how that could possibly help you.
It can really help you. I honestly, my goal at this point is to be able to, when I die, say that I have made restitutions with pretty much anybody that I can. That I say I'm sorry or I say I forgive you, whatever it needs to be, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to learn to forgive and to accept and not bypass it, really. So let's see. We got a few minutes. We have some questions from listeners that I want to try and answer. The first one is from Panapat. And you know what? I think that at the beginning of the week, we didn't know the answer to this question, but it is spiritual bypassing bad? And I think we can say now that it is. It's not a healthy practice. The second part of her question is, can bypassing really solve issues, or it helps us survive so we can continue to the real solution, including shadow work? Would it be like being on medication for health issues but still eating food that is bad for your health?
Yeah.
You know what I would say it's more like? I would say it's like having a problem, having a physical problem, and covering it up with a medication, not taking care of it, just covering it up. Some things don't go away. But if you have something that, it can go away, but you're just throwing medication on it, then you're bypassing it. Yeah. So it's very much like that. It's not a healthy practice, but a lot of us have to do it at certain times to get through certain things, and that's okay. Yeah. It's just coming back and making sure that you do it.
Yeah, I think also, probably war would probably be the one saddest, thing we could think of. I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but that's pretty much the top of the list, and that's going on even today in our world. And I remember when you told me, when this started up with the Ukraine and Russia, and I got up one morning, you said, it started. And for some reason, I don't know, I thought, we're still doing this?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably did.
Is this just not getting old?
Yeah.
And then I start thinking about that. I go, put a soldier in combat, and then when his tour of duty's done, and expect him never to cry or feel what he went through and try to bypass all that. Mm-hmm. How do you think that guy's life's going to turn out?
Yeah. That's
probably not really good.
That's where PTSD comes from, not dealing with it.
Right. But if you deal with it, if the military taught these soldiers, not only program them how to do all the combat and be a soldier, but then deprogram them
Yes.
to go back into civilization and let them know it's okay to feel these certain things.
Yep.
When I think maybe a lot of them feel ashamed
Right.
for showing that. Maybe I'm wrong. I've never been there in my own. My father was, so I hear the things that he talks about. But he was smart, and he started talking about it,
Yeah.
and it's helped him.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty drastic analogy, but that's how I would look at it. Is a lot of this life is, kind of battling
It is.
and trying to get your way through the world and your lifetime and all the lessons that you have to learn. Don't look at it as a battle that the world is against you, but sometimes it feels like that.
Yeah.
And if you're not releasing the emotion that comes along with that experience, you're setting yourself up
Yeah.
for a big fall.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. All right, one more question I want to get to here. This is from
Okay.
Chanel. She said, how do we get over the spiritual bypassing and focus more on shadow work? I've been having a rough few months where I think I'm healing myself just by thinking in a spiritual mindset, but not doing much shadow work at all. So you're putting a Band-Aid on it is what it sounds like. You're trying,
Yeah.
you're doing the spiritual work, but, and that's what I was doing at first too. I'm just trying to, become the spiritual person that I want to be, but I'm not dealing with the things I need to deal with.
Right.
And I think that what comes into play here is willpower. It's about telling yourself, I need to deal with this. I can't just push it under the rug. I need to deal with this. I need to feel it. One of the things, the practices that I've gotten into is to give myself, it's not like I'm saying I set an amount of time that I'm going to deal with something, but I say, you know what, today I'm just going to feel it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to allow myself
Go
to
with it.
just feel it. Tomorrow's a new day. I'm not going to fight it. And I'll deal with it when it gets there tomorrow. Where I used to just, it would go out every day. It would every day it would be the same thing because I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to feel it and then I'm going to move on. And, it's like still the things that come to you, like our friends passing or like after I found my family and there's waves of emotions, it still comes back and it hits you.
Yeah.
And when it does, you need to feel it again and not push it aside and say, oh, no, I'm not dealing with that. I had a foot zone last week and I thought that I had dealt with our friend's passing. And then the foot zone lady, she knew him. She remembered him from where you guys had worked together.
Yeah.
And I lost it. I completely lost. I started crying. It was horrible. I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I dealt with this. But I felt those emotions again. I wasn't like, no, don't cry. Let it go. You got to let it go. You got to get it out. Then that's when you feel better. But when you're like, I can't do this. I can't feel these feelings anymore. That's when you're stifling yourself.
I'm not going to say I won't cry over it again, because I may.
I'm crying about it right now.
I know. But I feel okay
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I've luckily I have a wife that's a psychic, so I can do a lot of this, and medium. So I can, not only can I communicate with Michael, but I can communicate through you and us together in understanding maybe why this occurred the way that it occurred.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm making it okay for a crime like that to occur.
Right.
But I know that everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
And I know that there was a reason. And so I can sit here and make up the scenarios and try to crack the code, but then connecting directly to Michael to get that sort of information of like, oh, well, that was kind of what I was feeling.
Right. Yeah.
So you affirmed that what you did was necessary.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't cry again in the future about it, having a moment and thinking about him and missing him. But that initial like grief.
Yeah.
Because I need to release him.
Yeah.
I need to release him because he's got work to do.
Yeah.
And the more that I hold him here and not want to let him go, the harder it is for him, I think, to do that work.
You're not the only one.
That he needs to do. And this is
Yeah.
for anybody,
Yeah.
that's passed. that we have to release them. We have to let them go.
Yeah. They'll still be here with us.
They will.
That's not it at all. They just have work to do.
They will be more active in your life.
Yes.
And help you if you can release them.
We bring them down. We bring their vibration
Literally,
down. Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Your vibrations are holding them here.
Yep.
It's been a blessing, I will say. I've gotten to have the opportunity to speak or communicate through Messenger with 3 of his sisters.
Yeah.
And on kind of a regular basis since this has happened. And that's been really cool.
Yeah.
Because I feel his like genetic connection to them. And then I see pictures of them because they're sending me pictures of their family and, all their kids and how much they look alike. And I can see Michael in there,
Yeah, totally.
And that warms my heart.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good.
Yep.
And I know that he's happy. I know
Yep.
that he's happy.
Yes. And you know what? This isn't on the topic, but I want to give a little part of the story that we didn't have before, because I want to show a way that the universe works that people may have a hard time with. But so this man's ex-wife, our friend's ex-wife, she was staying with him because this was a problem. They were worried about something like this happening. Okay. So the day it happened, she went to work. She would have been at his apartment when this happened, but she had a hair appointment. The hair appointment was rescheduled 4 times.
Yep.
4 times.
He insisted that she go.
He insisted that she go. Now, we all know what happened there. The universe saved her. Why? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons. Yeah. But that did happen for a reason. And that may be hard for a lot of people to accept. But the universe works that way. Right. The universe saved her for a reason. Right. It was our friend's time to go. Mm-hmm. He was ready. She's not. She has a lot of work still here that she needs to do, especially on herself and to deal with this. Yeah. So we never really understand people's their journey here, so to speak. But this all happened the way that it was supposed to, and it's very sad. It doesn't make it better.
3 days prior to that, the son was being violent with the mother.
Yes.
Like choking her out and
it was a horrible
punching her in the head to where she thought, I spoke to her and she said to me, I had pretty much accepted I was going to die.
Yeah.
And then he left me for whatever reason, walked away. He went in his room and fell asleep. And I took the dog and my things so that I could grab. And I left. And she didn't come back to that house until after he passed. Our friend passed away.
He could have killed her that night. I'm surprised he didn't.
This
the universe
is
stopped him.
The reason. The reason is he made it so she could live and take care of the things she needs to take care of. And that somebody with an illness like that is never going to be on the street again.
Right. Exactly. So that's how the universe works. As crazy as it may seem, there's always a reason. It doesn't mean we're not supposed to feel the feelings or deal with it.
Not unfair.
No, it's still
sad.
Unfair. It still sucks.
It's very sad. But would I come to that conclusion 10 years ago or on my own, period? I don't know.
I wouldn't have.
Probably not. Mm-mm. But where I'm at now, I came to that conclusion even prior to connecting with Michael.
Yeah.
And all he did was reaffirm that you guys are right.
Yeah.
That's exactly why this went the way that it went.
Yeah.
There's also an alternative that it didn't have to go.
Yes.
But it was going to go one of 2 ways, and it went that way.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, had he pressed charges against his son for elderly abuse, the son would, probably go to prison for a few years because of priors, but then would be out on his own after that.
Yep.
And
probably
what
more
kind
angry.
of state of mind are you in after you've spent 3 years in prison?
Exactly.
Probably angry, like you just said.
Yep.
So ultimately, it was going to happen. I feel like whether it was that day or 3 years later.
Right.
It was going to happen.
So where some people may say we're spiritually bypassing by saying this happened for a reason, I don't believe that at all, because we've dealt with the emotions. We're still dealing with the emotions. We just accept the fact that this happened and that there were many reasons why it happened. So you have to look at the line there too. So you're not beating yourself up and thinking, oh, I'm being overly positive. There is a balance. There is a happy medium there for sure.
And I've accepted it. I felt it. I denied it. I accepted it, and then I realized there has to be closure.
Yeah.
There has to always in any loss of anything. And that's part of my closure.
Yeah.
Is that I realize it's hard to see it from a mortal side of, are you kidding me? Like,
Right.
what, was that necessary?
Yeah. Right.
I'm
Seriously.
not the creator and controlling all this.
Yeah.
I can just clearly see how this solved,
Yeah.
not just for the situation and the safety for the mother, but you have to understand, my friend was at a point in his life where things weren't great.
No, they were less than great.
And
Very, very less.
there was a lot of financial issues and career issue. So there was just a lot of things
Health
that
issues.
I think he was just ready.
He was ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. And that's not a bypass. That's not a spiritual bypass. That's
Yeah.
actually the truth.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
So I think we've done it.
Awesome.
Another episode in the can.
Good job.
Yeah, you
Bryce.
too.
Well,
And Betty
before
too.
we say goodbye to everybody, would you like to share your information?
Yes, so you can find me on the internet, SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. You can book an appointment there if you'd like to have a reading by me. If you want to reach us at the show, you can email us at spiritualjoneses@gmail.com or find us on social media at spiritualjoneses.
Very good.
And you could start.
Thank you. For my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram and Facebook. I shared over the last week the Frank Zappa that I finished and had a great response.
Yeah.
So thanks
Great one.
everybody that gave me some feedback or liked it or whatever. I appreciate that.
Yes.
And I'm actually working on Mrs. Jones's tattoo right now.
Yes, you are. My next
So,
tattoo. He's
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Excited about that one.
Me too.
And we recorded again this week, so we're just going at it. Still going at it. No shows or nothing like that for a while.
Yeah.
But working on the recordings, and it's going well.
Keep on keeping on.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. All right.
Well, we hope everybody got something out of this.
That we do.
I did, and I learned about something.
Me too.
Which is cool.
A lot, yeah.
And so thanks. And we hope everybody has a great week.
We